Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like wanting to hear my take on marketing, but getting my POV on markers. Which, by the way, I favor chisel-tipped low-odor markers because 1, they glide with a velvety resistance, and 2, they deliver impeccably saturated lines. Of course, it all depends on what kind of whiteboard I'm writing on and if the glossiness is at a 60%.
Okay, Marcus, I think that's enough.
You wouldn't settle for just any marketing podcast, so don't settle for any insurance. Get the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Okay, so Gayle, I don't know if you noticed, but I've got my no stars, but stripes on just for this conversation. It's a little out of sync with the flag, but I'm here for it. I mean, we are celebrating America's 250th birthday. That's a pretty big deal. And in the world of marketing, one might even argue that we might be looking at what could potentially be another Super Bowl-like event. I mean, I think that if the brands had it their way, this is a great big media moment where we get to stand shoulder to shoulder with the rest of our countrymen and celebrate this momentous occasion. Gayle, are you feeling the Super Bowl vibes here?
I don't think I'm really feeling Super Bowl-esque vibes yet, right? I'm not sure I've felt a 250 breakthrough yet. But again, what I think is irrelevant because we're here to see what does the market say?
I mean, we want to know what the market says.
Exactly.
So thankfully for us, we've got really good representation of the market with us today. We've got students from the University of Michigan. One would argue the best university on the planet, but I am biased, I admit. But we have Hannah with us, Maya with us, and Aria with us. Friends, welcome to the podcast. And today we're talking about America 250. And I just want to open it up with a question. Prior to this conversation, did you know anything about America 250? Was it on your radar? Hannah, let's start us off. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having us. I'm super excited. I think it's really interesting that I actually didn't know about America's 250th, but I did know about Trump's 80th. And I think that those are a little bit synonymous with each other right now. I don't know if brands are necessarily, especially
big birthday season.
Yeah, for our age group, delineating themselves from the 80th. Instead, I'm like looking at the UFC fight on the White House lawn, not necessarily as a celebration as 250th, but again, as Trump's birthday. So I think it's really interesting that brands are trying to differentiate themselves from that.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of like on the same wavelength as Hannah in the sense of like, I didn't really know a ton about America 250 like before, like doing some research. And I actually came across how Trump's administration has like come up with Freedom 250. And it's just kind of a bunch of laws that they passed like in this past year. And so I was like kind of doing research. And yeah, I feel like it's a lot of the marketing that's happening, it's kind of like being looped in with his 80th birthday too. Like the UFC fight, I think is a great example of that.
Where does one end and where does one start? It seems to be pretty conflated here. Maya, has that been your experience too, or did you see this differently?
I mean, totally, definitely echoing that whole idea of it's pretty synonymous at this point. But also, I kind of just felt like it was the same July 4th. Everything's in red, white, and blue. I'm seeing fireworks at the grocery store, but there are little subtle changes with just the number 250 everywhere. So in seeing that, I've kind of just had it in the background. So if I had to put it in one word, I just felt indifferent to it.
That's actually the worst thing for a marketer to hear, that I'm apathetic about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would say swaying towards the apathetic side. I think where we kind of are right now with like so many things are happening like, in the world around us. And I think it is like kind of hard sometimes to like feel like we can all come together and like celebrate this occasion, I feel like. And I think also just because it's kind of hard also, like I want to kind of like be excited and like be curious about like a lot of the marketing campaigns that are going on. Like obviously doing research, like what Coke is doing with like the largest like delittering fest that they want to do and like things like that are super exciting. But then I also kind of almost wonder like, okay, yeah, it's like this is happening for like a day or for a week, but like what about the rest of the year? Like I feel like that's why it's like hard for me to really feel truly like excited about it when there's almost this like a little bit of angle of like, is it a little bit performative? Like I can't exactly tell.
I mean, that's a really good shout. It's a kind of difficult time to celebrate. I mean, Gayle, are you feeling celebratory? Are you feeling this tension too?
I think that's at the core of the challenge here for brands, right? If you look at this organized A250 campaign, I know, kind of Marcus in the CMO circles, right? People have been talking about this for a couple of years. It sounded like it'd be a big moment. And I think most of the marketers that I've spoken to on and off through the past couple of years, some of them became sponsors, some didn't. But I think the brands that were considering it or getting involved in it all kind of felt maybe the opposite, right? I think they felt like, hey, we've been through a divisive election. There's a lot of political negativity. You can't stop world events. The news is the news and what's happening is happening. But finding moments, like we did when we talked about sports marketing, right? I think we all kind of felt positive in a prior episode about the ability for brands to rally around fandom and the shared passions. I guess that's the big question for me, back to you guys and the market. Does the market say patriotism is like music and sports and other passions, and it's a moment to rally around? Or is patriotism somehow some kind of different beast?
Something that Professor Collins says in the classroom a lot is that culture's a meaning-making system.
I love the kiss-up moments.
Yeah, he deserves it.
She's graduated. She's all good. She's all good now.
But so he says that culture's like this meaning-making system. And I think what I feel personally about these brands is that they're buying into what America 250 wants to borrow from the youth. And what they're borrowing from the youth, or what they think they're borrowing from the youth, is patriotism. And in the eyes of the youth, patriotism is this like aspirational ideology where we're banding together for a greater cause. But what I would argue is that what America 250 is doing, and in turn what these brands are buying into, is actually an idea of nationalism, where they're on the defense of, we're the greatest country, this is what we can pull off, we're going to pull off all stops and like put in the money of it. But they're in an area where they don't belong. Like the patriotism, the meaning, the culture behind patriotism for us doesn't belong in that schema.
On Hannah's point of like this nationalism thing, we want that patriotism in a way. If we're looking at 18% of the Gen Z generation not being entirely proud of being American, then I think we also have to look at the word patriotism. What are you being proud of? And I think that word itself has changed in meaning and association over time. And that's what I kind of equate that 18% being so low for. So when I look at what I'm actually being sold, part of me as an American does want to be proud of all these things that I am proud of being American for. Like, yes, we have the UFC fight, we have IndyCar, we have all these different things, but we also have blues, we have the moon landing, we have soul food, and all these other things that I want to see in a different light, but I'm not seeing as much of. So when you're looking at all these different identities, it's truly just, who are you truly speaking to in terms of what is patriotism?
Are you telling me you're not excited to see Vanilla Ice rock the stage for America's
No, that
250?
one I will tune in for.
Mm-hmm. I'd say like normally, like, yeah, like I don't really consider myself someone who's like going all out for the 4th. Like, yeah, it's a great time to kind of be with like family and friends. Like my parents have off from work, so like we'll spend it together. But typically it's like just kind of like another holiday for me. Like, oh, I have a day off. I also am thinking about now like the brands that I'm seeing as like sponsors for the event. Like I personally don't know like how much their marketing would kind of like influence me specifically to like consume more of their products, like just because I'm kind of seeing them in the America 250 context versus like maybe if I see like a Super Bowl ad and like Coca-Cola is like doing this like a spot on for Super Bowl, like in my head, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm more likely to like buy whatever product they're kind of promoting through Super Bowl just because like I'm a bigger fan of the Super Bowl. I kind of do partake in it. Like it's for me, it is like, you know, like everyone's like, oh, like this is my Super Bowl. Like that is kind of like a big event for me. So that's kind of the lens that I'm taking it through.
Gayle, this is an interesting point here that Aria brings up. Like maybe between the Olympics and the Super Bowl, which were both positioned as these patriotic moments. Are we all patriotic out? Is that where we are?
Super interesting, right? We know how to celebrate a sporting event, right? I think for this one, I was thinking about it. I think it's been historically like July 4th. It's like more of a retail holiday, right? But does it work to go to that next level of fandom, right? I'm not sure. You're saying we're fans of America. Okay. But where's the tension in it, maybe?
Oh, that's good.
Maybe there's just not enough tension for this to be as exciting as FIFA or Super Bowl or Olympics.
Too far?
It's kind of going back to my idea of this being synonymous with Trump's 80th birthday, like political views completely aside. I think that the tension is political. And right now to say that our country is completely political divided, like I would say that's almost an objective view. That's like, it is. And it's very uncomfortable for people to celebrate this country because when you're also celebrating it, you are picking a political side. Like what specifically are you celebrating about this country? And so I think it's hard because right now they've almost like institutionalized America's 250th. Like the 4th of July isn't necessarily run by Fortune 500 companies. It's, they're putting it right in the mix. And because they've institutionalized it so hard, I think they're also killing its authenticity. Like, I think it's super authentic for these grocery stores and whatnot for the 4th of July to be putting out all of this memorabilia. Also because I think historically that's what we're used to. And unfortunately, with this being new, it also has new adoption. And right now that adoption doesn't feel authentic. It just feels purely political to me.
And like we've talked about, it is the same day as President Trump's birthday. So that kind of makes it feel like, is this actually about America's 250th? And looking into the event, you'll see that there's so many seats. A large chunk is reserved for veterans, which is incredible. And then there's a large chunk of VIP seats and things like that, which are being auctioned off for like $1.5 million. I mean, I'm sure there's a demographic for that, but if you're going to talk about kind of this core American value that you want to celebrate in these 250 years, I don't know if that's the right message. And so in everything that's going on, yeah, you have Vanilla Ice, but there have been other artists that have dropped out of this specific event because of its political kind of affiliation. And to that end, I don't know that it speaks to me and don't know if it speaks to America 250.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Maya's saying, because I think especially like from a monetary perspective, they're diluting the image completely. Like I saw with the UFC that they're losing like millions and millions of dollars on this. And like, yeah, in theory, that's cool. Like you want to celebrate like America's 250th, but then is that not counterintuitive to these cleanup initiatives that are going on and like showing that we really care about America? Well, why is this money going to a fight on the front lawn? Like that's where my mind is really conflicting of like, where is this brand message? Whereas again, going back to like the 4th of July, that message has been clear for years. I think everyone's just a little bit confused. And by everyone, I mean brands, on like how to actually go about this. How do we actually celebrate America? And that's where our perspective as Gen Z, I think all like the three of us are kind of saying that patriotism is represented by Coke's cleanup and stuff like that, where actual good is coming out of this. Whereas the fight, again, in theory is super cool. But to us, I think we're agreeing that it's a waste of money.
I feel like for me, I'm thinking of it as it kind of just depends on like what values they're showcasing like through these advertisements. Like I feel like because so many of these brand names that you just mentioned, like these are household brands that like so many families like, like will consume on a daily basis. I think it really kind of just depends like what their angle is with marketing. Like if they're kind of like noting back to their origins from like years ago, from decades ago of like, this is like where we started, like here's where we are now from their brand's perspective, like I would feel like that'd be super cool to kind of like reflect back on that. And I think when I am like viewing these advertisements, like I'm kind of seeing like, okay, like how do its values like relate with mine? And I think if they're kind of able to really like create a distinction between like the 80th birthday and like UFC and all these like different kind of like events that are happening that I would say are kind of more around like the nationalism that Hannah was like kind of mentioning, if they're able to kind of differentiate between that versus like these are our values, like this is like what our brand is, like this is what it means to like the American people, like I think that could be something that's super cool and like really does like create more differentiation with the brand.
Now, if I were going to play devil's advocate, I would say, you know what, guys, we want to rework the meaning of United States. that we're trying to be more tough guy, that we're trying to show that, like, we're beefy, we don't play games. And these are things we're going to celebrate that are like Americana in its nature, that that we fight back. Maya, I know you to be a strategic mind. Can you buy that? Like, if I give you that brief, you go, okay, I can see that. And I can see how I want to teach the world to see perfect harmony. Can play along with that if you're a Coke or some other brand trying to find itself in this new recontextualization of meaning.
I mean, in a way, yes. But say you gave me that brief, my reaction is, this isn't a rebrand. This is something we've already been saying in different ways. We've seen this kind of very like macho, kind of almost violent approach in different ways in global events, in messaging, that has kind of become synonymous to America in different ways. So if I were a brand in this point in time, what I would love to do is kind of contrast that and show the different parts of what it means to be American, and that it doesn't have to be just like this show of brute force in different ways, that it can come out in ingenuity, in art and culture, because that's also really important to the fabric of what it is to be America. And it's often not what we are most known for if you talk globally. So I can understand it, but I don't know if it's a true rebrand.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think it's fair to like put some pushback that there are some positives about this. Like, I do think there's some type of unity that needs to be seen, but I'll give an example when I was thinking about this. I was thinking about like Patagonia as the like ideal counter model of what's happening. And I honestly don't know if Patagonia is American made or what their process is. But when I hear like the American made ideology, what I think of is like what Aria was saying, like the values. What are these underlying values? And I think what's important is that there's the difference between a substance and a spectacle. I think that these brands right now are using like this one-time activation to show their values, where it's really clear to us that that's not true. You put Patagonia in front of me, I know what it's like. I know the substance of their values. So to your point, I do think it's important to give credit that some of it is cool, but am I going to be like reposting it on social media? No. Like, it doesn't make me feel more prideful. I think it's funnier than prideful. And honestly, at the end of the day, like from a marketing perspective, there's two lenses to look at this. We're marketing America on the global stage. And I think it is somewhat embarrassing the amount of money that we're losing over this, where it could be to the more substance of where our values should lie. But B, in terms of like what marketers could be doing at Gen Z, the point of the podcast, this isn't changing like prices in the market from what I've seen, and when we're like the most price sensitive group there is. And that's where our value honestly lies. Like we could talk about like our idealism of where our values are as Gen Z. And realistically, I would love to say that it's with Patagonia and with these brands that have great underlying substance values. But honestly, I would totally buy a discount and love America's 250 if that was the case. But it's just not the case right now.
Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like wanting to listen to brilliant young marketing students drop insights on everything from music to gaming, but instead, you get a bunch of Gen X industry long haulers reading from their lengthy thought piece that they posted on their favorite B2B social channels this morning. This format is different from any other marketing podcast because we get to hear from the market about how things actually are. And together, you get our context with their perspective. You wouldn't settle for just any old marketing insights, so don't settle for any insurance. Get the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
When you join Sam's Club, you get way more than you'd expect. You don't just get value. You get insider tips from fellow members. You don't just pick up a pizza. You actually vote on its toppings. Bacon crumbles. You don't just visit the club, because with the Sam's Club app, everywhere can be the club. You don't just shop the latest finds. You find your people. And at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? Come join us. Sam's Club.
But there's something a bit more wholesome, I would argue here, that feels sort of Americana of yesteryear and probably still has a place today in the state fair, the Great American State Fair that we all have across the country locally are now sort of descending the National Mall to invite everybody in. And I guess the thing I'm wondering here, and I think I know the answer based on the apathy that you guys feel about this whole thing, are y'all showing up to D.C.? Are your friends going?
I'm not flying to D.C. to go there, but if I were in town, I wouldn't mind it. I think that's like a very fun part of this lighthearted, wholesome view of what America can be and used to be, still is, in different perspectives. I used to have a state fair in my own town, and then they removed it for some dumb reason, and that's been my biggest qualm with my city so far. But that moment kind of celebrates a diversity of experiences, of age ranges, and just different levels of nostalgia for people. It's not too far back. It's not limited to one experience. Like, everyone can kind of enjoy the Ferris wheel. You can enjoy live music and things like that. And this is an event that is open to the public. I don't need $1 million on me to be able to go and enjoy. So to that end, I'd say that this event kind of appeals.
Go see the butter sculptures, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
This event seems to appeal more to more Americans. There's more identities in the mix here.
It totally invests in the community. And I think that's what we're arguing patriotism is. It's investing in the youth. It's giving back. And I think that's why our overarching idea is that we love the cleanups. We love the idea of that. Sure, we could put ourselves on this global stage, but that goes back to the idea of being a spectacle. Make the substance of a true American value going back into the communities, bringing the lighthearted nature back and making our youth happy.
Spoken from the youth. I love it. All right, so this is the segment of the show where we do just really quick rapid fire questions. And it's really just two answers: care or don't care. And based on our conversation, I think this is going to be
a rough one.
I don't need Polly Market or Kelsey to let me know sort of where these things are going to lean based on our conversation. But for the sake of consistency, let's do it. All right. So UFC fight on the White House lawn. Care or don't care? Aria, care or don't care?
Don't care.
Maya.
Don't care.
Hannah, what say you?
Don't care one bit.
Don't care. Don't care. Hey, another addendum to that, I guess, is a third answer here to this. Are you upset about it? Or are you apathetic about it? Not because you don't care, but because it doesn't matter at all to you.
I feel like for me, it just doesn't matter to me. It's not something that I would go to even if I was in the city. And I also even though I'm not, I probably wouldn't stream it or watch it if I could.
Copy that. Okay. Second question. So you've got Coke returning to, I wanted to teach the world to sing. I want to buy America a Coke. And you got all of these brands that sort of returning to some heritage communications. Are you feeling nostalgic? Do you care or don't you care? Hannah, care or don't care?
Care.
Oh, say more.
I care because, again, it's that institutionalized message, or again, back to substance versus spectacle. I think it's cool to go back to the roots. And even with UFC, I'm 100% going to watch it. It's something new. It's something exciting. But do I think it screams to me? Is it going to make me buy things more? From a marketing perspective, I find it somewhat useless. It's just something to watch. And again, they're losing money on it, which I think speaks to it the most. But yeah.
So if there's something else better happening, you're not watching it, basically.
No, even if I have to go pick up food, I'm not watching it. But in theory, I'm watching it.
So Maya, these nostalgic sort of harking back to yesteryear communications of brands, care or don't care?
I do care. Coke's always been selling happiness, and you can't really argue with that. And there's also different parts to what they're doing. I think they have a pledge for around 250,000 volunteer hours additional to all of their kind of B2B marketing that they're doing.
Yeah, they added dimension to this, right?
Yeah, it feels like something I can engage with as an individual, and I can stand by that.
Aria, care or don't care?
Yeah, I would say I also care. I think kind of harping on the whole aspect of community. I think it's so important to bring people together and during holidays like this. And I think they're really achieving that aspect while also making an impact in their community, whether small or large. So that's super inspirational. And then also on that kind of same note, I am also like curious to kind of see what they continue to do, like not just for this like one event, but also I would probably want to like follow them like throughout the like next couple of years or months to see what other initiatives they're coming up with.
I mean, this is actually really, really inspiring that even in a moment in time that's full of a lot of baggage, and to Hannah's earlier point, a lot of meaning and congruence, you all still feel like very much connected to brands, that these brands actually matter. The challenge is sort of the bedfellows the brand seems to find themselves in. They're plus one. In this case, the plus one being America 250 doesn't really feel like the right opportunity. The brands matter to you, regardless of their plus one. That makes me feel really good. I don't know about you, Gayle, but I feel really encouraged.
You say brands are our tribal mark, like they're the extension of us. And so that's why, like, it's hard to delineate this from something political because that is politics. Like, what group we're affiliated with, that's our tribal mark. Then we want to be with brands that further insinuate that capitalize on that. So it's hard. They have to do America 250 in the way that we want. Like, all of us could have the same political views, and that's why our conversation is this way. And then you could have a completely different conversation with a different party and see how they feel about America 250. I mean, even with the UFC fight, I have a ton of guy friends who are like so excited about this. It's like really ramping up, like what Gayle was saying, like that tension of like patriotism and getting them excited. But you're talking to us, and we don't feel that way.
There's a competitionness, right? It's so interesting, right? Because you guys are making like exactly the point, right? Which is like when you boil down all the different ways, I guess, which, if you take Super Bowl or Olympics or any other big spectacle moments, I think you guys called them. It's always interesting to see which direction a brand goes, right? I feel like there's a natural reason for mustard and ketchup to come together and things. And then, then you've got products like I'll throw this one out and see if you guys care or don't care. As I was just doing a little research on this, Velveeta's doing America-themed mac and cheese, right? So you've got star shapes and America-shaped pasta noodles. Care or don't care?
Care. I think that's awesome. It's
right.
It's not hurting my tribal mark. It's yummy, and I think the mac and cheese is as American as it gets, as prideful as I'll get about America as our mac and cheese.
Yeah, and it doesn't get to the divisiveness and the domination and
totally.
We must win. We are America. I kind of love kind of the simple fun stuff too. How about the rest of you guys? America mac and cheese?
Yeah, I would say I care. That's cool.
Yep.
All right. I think Todd's got a winner there.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd Koppel. This is all you, my guy. So last one for you. And I think that we kind of know where we're ending here, but we'll end the way we started. America 250 was positioned like a potential another bite at the Super Bowl apple. This is going to be a massive, massive undertaking that the country is going to experience together. And for brands, you'd be hard pressed to get this sort of concurrent media moment. But it feels like it's not really happening the way that we thought it was going to be a year ago. So the fact that this doesn't feel like it's going to be this big celebratory Super Bowl part to do here in the country, do you care or don't you care?
Yeah, I would say I don't care that it's like not going to be this big thing. Like, I'm fine with that.
Hannah, what say you?
I don't care.
Losing no sleep here. Maya, I'm going to take a wild guess, but I'd like you to fill in the blank here. Care or don't care?
Don't really care, but I would love to see a brand turn this into something that they can also be proud of and like highlight a value that they think is their core as well.
Aria, Maya, Hannah, thank you all so very much, and for continuing to make me proud and our great university, the University of Michigan, proud. Shining your brilliance. We are very, 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 very grateful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah. What I take from this conversation is that despite the apathy, despite the complication of it all, the complexity of it all, is that there's still some optimism. There's still some hope. Like even your last statement there, Maya, that like you hope that a brand would see this opportunity for what it is and try to recontextualize it in a way that provides value for those who are actually involved, which is us, whether we like it or not. We are here in this country. We're celebrating our birthday, even if we choose to cry at our birthday party, right? It's still happening and it still affects us. I mean, we're actually footing the bill on this. Our taxpayer dollars are underwriting this thing. So the fact that we're not just apathetic or even upset, that there's still a little hope and some optimism there, I think is the silver lining that we need nowadays.
Yeah, I like any way that brands can help in this moment. And I'm sure a lot of them will when we start seeing more of that. We haven't seen a lot of the work in the marketplace yet. But I think if brands can help us, just like you said, let's just have an excuse to have a great celebration. It's a birthday. It's a great birthday party. And I think if brands could just bring us to the joy and dodge sort of some of the negativity or let us forget it for a moment. But I think if they're walking right into the negativity, it may just be a buzzsaw with the market. That's what I'm hearing.
Two things that came to mind to me, and I don't know how you react to them, Gayle, but I think Hannah, just like right between the eyes, this idea of substance versus spectacle. And immediately I thought about this scholar named Guy Debierge, who wrote a book called The Society and the Spectacle. And he wrote this book post-World War II, when Europe was sort of coming out of this depressive state that they were in economically and found themselves like really being wrapped up in consumption. And his argument was that Europe was experiencing the spectacle and that they weren't engaging in experiences. Instead, they were buying things that were avatars to experiences, which you fast forward. That was written like in the 50s. You fast forward today, it's essentially social media, right? That instead of going to experience a thing, we just want the photo to say that we've been there as a representation of the experience. And I think that that's really what this thing is about. Like this thing, the challenge that we're having with America 250 is that it feels far more spectacle than it does substance, right? It's like, because the substantive part of this goes, hey, we should probably talk instead of having a party. It's like, we should probably actually have more of a come to Jesus moment than a birthday party right now.
Right.
I think that being able to sort of just identify that would actually provide better context to what can either be conflated to a Trump birthday party or even sort of a representation of an America that we're not all experiencing at the same time.
I couldn't agree more. I think all the news and the hype cycle has been around the spectacle, right? And I think that's what we're hearing the market react to pretty negatively, to the spectacle story. But I think I have hope that a lot of the marketing from a lot of the incredibly talented people we're going to start seeing run in the next month or so as we get closer to the 250th, I think we're going to see a lot more campaigns and there seemed to be a lot more openness to the campaigns that just remind us what our 250 is. It's a day off. It's a day we all get to share in one unified birthday. And for most of us, we won't be on the South Lawn at a giant UFC match for a lot of money and travel and costs and expensive tickets, right? For most of us, we're going to be in the backyard, firing up the grill, hanging out with grandma, doing the things and, maybe going to see some fireworks. And I guess the fireworks is the spectacle that's always been part of this holiday. We don't really talk about
spectacle.
Fireworks, right? But that is the thing that makes July 4th always a spectacle beyond just another American holiday.
And it's a welcome spectacle at that.
It is.
I talked about this before during our music episode, launching the Made in America Music Festival for Budweiser back in 2012. This is at a time where the patriotic Americana had changed. It wasn't flag waving, I'm proud to be an American. It wasn't that kind of patriotism. It was, it was the new Americana. We smoke marijuana. That was the youth zeitgeist at the time.
We want to go hear some good music together, right? The things that are bringing us together are the simple pleasures, right? The backyard party, the pool party, the sitting on a blanket in the park, watching fireworks, right? Those are the unifying moments. And maybe through the marketing, maybe these brands are going to bring that back into our zeitgeist and give us a reason to think about how we do share some American values, even if we don't share all the values of the news cycle every day.
That's right. There is a reality here. There's a realness that's not just sort of the bright flashing light that is the tension that's in the United States. But there are these parts that are like, we experience these things together, and they're not like over the top, but they feel so good. And I feel like, to your point, that's where the opportunity is. That's where the brief is. That like, there's these things that we know that are bad, and everyone knows about them. Everyone talks about them. But nobody's talking about these other things, these like things that we all sort of experience that still feel really good, right?
And they're simple,
really, and they're simple. Yes, they're totally
they're simple, and they're truly American. I have this weird connection to July 4th because it's my dad's birthday, and he's going to turn 87 this year. So happy birthday, Bill! One year we had a place out in a little town in Washington State, and I paid $35 to get us a spot in the town parade. And I dressed my mom and dad up in like Uncle Sam outfits and put them on the back of a convertible. And we drove them through the parade with a sign that said, "It's my birthday too." And the entire town for 3 hours was like throwing candy and saying happy birthday to my dad. And it was like the best $35 gift ever, right? It was just an amazing moment of community and family and pure joy and acceptance. And I don't know, do I vote like everyone in that parade? Probably not, right? But we shared that moment and those values, and it made it a special day. And I hope that's what we see more of from marketing, a little less unattainable tickets to one-off spectacles, and a lot more brands showing up and slashing prices, giving us good deals to buy their products, to just go have a fun celebration with the people we love in honor of America.
I love it. That's a birthday party I'm willing to show up for sure.
Totally.
Market Says is a Bubbler Media iHeart podcast production. If you're not in the conversation, you're not in the game.
Did you know Sam's Club isn't a store? It's actually a club. With cool finds and like a whole community. It's a club.
Of course, Jason. It's in the name. Sam's Club.
Oh, yeah. Come join us. Sam's Club.